Okay, so today we're going to have a look at Flight Simulator 2020, and we're going to see if the bug that I saw in the Cirrus 22 afflicts other aircraft that have the same or similar radio stacks. So today we're going to try the Cessna 172 and have a play with the Garmin G1000, and I'm going to program a waypoint into the GPS and let the aircraft fly with it, and I'm going to look at the altitude because that's where we discovered the bug in the SR22. So we're sitting here on the ground at Wickham or Booker Airfield, EGTB, in a Cessna 172. It's cold and dark, it's raining outside, we have realistic weather. I'm recording this at lunchtime, by the way, away from my work. So first thing we need to do is go and switch on the master battery, turn on the avionics, and if we click the yoke just to get it out of the way for the moment, we're going to turn on the beacon light, the navigation light and the strobe. We're going to turn on the fuel pump, we're going to turn on the pitot heat, and we can see that the mixture is already on 100%, which is great. So now, why are we getting a warning? Let's just check that. Nope, it's fine. So it's saying oil pressure, low volts, low vacuum. The reason for that is the engine isn't running. So, and now the engine is running. So the warnings have gone away. Okay, so we need to go and press the soft key over on the Garmin. So the thing that's interesting me is this is showing we are at 0 feet altitude. So that's different. The SR22 was showing us at minus several hundred feet, which messed up the GPS autopilot navigation. So we should have the same idea here where we can switch the CDI over to GPS. In other words, though, the autopilot's going to follow the GPS instructions. We should be able to go into flight plan. So this is slightly different. This has the buttons on the side of it, which it didn't have in the SR22 because it's a slightly different model, I guess, of the autopilot. So what are we looking at here? We're going to go to flight plan. So we're going to program into here. So we need to press, I'm just going to get rid of that yoke out of the way. We're going to press the button in, which puts the focus in here. And we're going to key in EGTB for our departure point. E, next character, and then inner ring again. G, next character. T, and B. Booker Airfield. And press enter. Next one we're going to put in Bensu, which we did yesterday on the flight with the SR22, but we're going to try it here as well. So I'm only going to go as far as Bensu. I just want to try this out really. B, E, N, S, U. After we've got as far as Bensu, we will turn around and enter the pattern to come back into land. But we'll do all that on BFR without following a flight plan. Enter. So we've got EGTB and Bensu. So we can see it's drawing that now, the path away from runway 24 right, which we'll take off on. So the thing I'm most interested really in looking at is on here. We can, or we should at least be able to change the barometric pressure. So here it is. It's the outer ring of this control here. So if we put the mouse in the right place, we can decrease or increase the barometric pressure. Now we can go across and have a look in Little Nav Map, and it will tell us the pressure should be 29.26 for on the ground at Booker. So it's at 29.92 at the moment. So if we go and change this to 29.26, 26. So our height above sea level is actually 490 feet. The other thing we can do, which it won't have done it in concert with it, is the backup altimeter over here is still showing 29.92, so we can change this as well to 29.26. It's interesting. It's much easier to do this than in the real thing, because in the real thing all you get to look at obviously is that tiny little gauge. If you notice that turns as I'm doing this, you've got two different measurement systems. So you've got HG on this side. I've forgotten the name of this one. Hectopascals probably the other side. Anyway, so this looks like it's behaving far better than it did on the previous flight that I tried with the SR22. So this one's actually working. So if I go and set our altitude, now where have they put the knob of altitude on this aircraft? So we got the altitude knob is down here, so yeah, it's where it should be on the Cessna. So we're going to go for 2,000 feet, so we'll essentially be 1,500 feet over the ground, and we are going to go for vertical speed mode straight away, and I'm guessing that this is going to change. Oh no, it's nose up and nose down buttons in this aircraft, so we can go 100 feet at a time. So we will climb at 1,000 feet a minute to 2,000 feet. So as soon as we turn the autopilot on, we should have no surprises. The other thing we need to do is change the heading bug. So if we entered heading mode, heading hold mode, so 240 degrees is the direction we'll be going when we take off. We may try and go for nav mode straight away, so as soon as we engage the autopilot, if we turn nav mode on, we should start following it. So let's actually try that now. You can see if I press nav, it says GPS up here. Yeah, but it actually goes between two different modes, roll mode and GPS mode. If I press heading, it will do heading mode. So I want actually GPS mode. So heading's kind of a nice backup, and it's nice to have the indicator there on the compass, so when we do come off the runway, we won't have any big surprises. So I'm just going to grab the joystick. I'm not going to... Oh, actually, we will bother with air traffic control. So we're going to go tune Wickham ground, request depart straight out.
Wickham ground Cessna Juliet Bravo Echo Kilo request taxi for takeoff departing straight out.
Cessna Juliet Bravo Echo Kilo taxi to in hold short of runway 24 right using taxiway. Contact tower on ONA26.55 when ready.
Okay, so we acknowledge taxi clearance and off we go.
Hold short runway 24 right using taxiway Cessna Bravo Echo Kilo.
So I've released the wheel brakes. Let's put the yokes back on so it looks nice in the cockpit. And off we go. We can get rid of that for the moment until we hold short of the runway, then we'll pull the ATC dialog back up. Okay, so it's the second line we need to stop at. Okay, so we've stopped. Open the dialog, tune Wickham Tower, request takeoff clearance.
Wickham Tower Cessna Juliet Bravo Echo Kilo ready for
We'll also get rid of this flight plan off the display.
Cessna Juliet Bravo Echo Kilo cleared for takeoff runway 24 right straight out, departure approved.
Acknowledge takeoff clearance.
Cleared for takeoff runway 24 right Cessna Bravo Echo Kilo.
Okay, so I'm going to start the takeoff roll straight away. So full throttle, flaps 1, we'll just accelerate to about 70 knots. And rotate. And we're up. So if we hold about a 10-degree climb out initially, we're watching that heading bug as well. So it flaps up, which will give us some airspeed back. I'm going to lower the nose slightly back down to about 7.5 degrees just to so obviously the faster we get, it's actually bumping around a little bit, but as you can see the weather's horrific. So I'm going to just straighten this back up onto 240 degrees. I'm going to hit the autopilot button. So I've turned on the autopilot. And you can see it's immediately backtracking to go towards the vector to the first waypoint, which is fine. So it should make an arrow left turn. So it absolutely looks like it's working properly. It seems to be it's the SR22 that has the bug then. The Cessna 172 seems to work, although it's fishtailing like crazy to get near the navigation, which is a little bit disappointing. So if we were to go to heading hold mode instead, so that now says heading, so it's going to follow the indicated heading on the compass, and it's done that quite happily. So I'm going to pull the throttle back slightly now, because now we're not climbing. Obviously we're going to accelerate rapidly. You can see the engine over here, so I'm going to pull the RPM back out of the... Well, it wasn't in the red range, it's fine, it's in the green range. Okay, so we're looking good. So let's start turning to come back into the pattern, because I think we've kind of confirmed this is working. It's following exactly what we imagined should have happened. We've gone to 2,000 feet, so we're about 1,500 feet over the ground, and you can just about see the ground going past down there in the horrible misty fog. So let's turn left 90 degrees, so we're going to turn to 150. Okay, so to do that, all we need to do, because we're on autopilot, is turn the heading bug to 150. We can either watch the compass or look at the tooltip. So we're now turning left to 150. You can see it's quite interesting. You really don't need to be able to see outside with these instruments, do you? But it's still nice to have the backup instruments just in case. So if we were going to come straight back in, we would come on the radio and we would go, we're still connected to Wickham Tower, remember, so we'll request a full stop landing.
Wickham Tower, Cessna Golf, Juliet Bravo Echo Kilo to land.
Cessna Golf, Juliet Bravo Echo Kilo Wickham Tower. Enter left downwind runway 24 right. Altimeter 29.29er, wind 239er, and ONE2.
239 at 12. So we can actually see what that means on a little nav map. So there's the wind. It's actually showing 17 for where we are at the moment. So there's the direction we have flown. So we're going to make a left turn to about 30 degrees in a moment to come into the downwind leg of the pattern, if that makes sense. So this is the left. If we were going to read their instruction, enter the left downwind. Oh, we need to acknowledge our... Yes, sorry. Whoops. Get in trouble. So they've asked us to enter the left downwind for runway 24 right. So what that means is that a left turning downwind leg. Yeah, it's nothing to do with orientation next to the airport. It's the direction you will be turning on the circuit. So we're going to turn left now to 30 degrees. So we're going to change our heading. to 30. So the plane's going to turn all on its own, doing about 100 knots, which is fine. This all seems to be behaving absolutely perfectly, unlike the SR22, which was all over the shop. So you can see the aircraft tracking round to 30 degrees. We'll come back another 10 degrees maybe. Whoops. Looking good. So then we're going to turn right to 64 degrees. So we're going to have quite a headwind. We should be able to come in extremely slowly over the runway. I'm just looking at what the radius of our turn was like at the speed we're travelling at to understand where we need to turn when we get onto the pattern. So we're getting ready to turn right to 64 degrees magnetic, and we are at 2,000 feet, which is 1,500 feet over the ground. Shall we turn right to 64 degrees about now? So I'm going to get rid of that out of the way.
Clear to land runway 24 right. 1238 at LNE2.
So we're going to acknowledge our landing clearance. So they've given us clearance to land.
Runway 24 right, Cessna Bravo Echo Kilo.
Let's do something about our altitude as well while we're at it. So we'll pull this down to 1,500 and we'll go nose down. Oh, we have to go to vertical speed mode, don't we? Sorry. 1,000 feet a minute. So we can see we're accelerating, so we're going to cut the engine back. And we're going to go left turn now. We want to go 90 degrees, so 330. So we've gone a bit long, but that's fine. Gives us more time to explain things as we're going along. We are going to be blown this way as well, remember, so if we follow this track accurately, we're actually going to go diagonally because the wind, actually the other way, sorry, we're going to be blown further away because the wind is coming from this direction. So you will see these lines actually diverge by the time we come over here. So we're still flying along on the autopilot. Should we have a look out the window? So you can see the edge of Wickham going by. And the rain as well on the windscreen. It's not raining too bad. So I'm going to speed back up a little bit. So left turn now to 24. So I hate the way that the mouse causes that to happen. And I hate the way it accelerates when you're rolling the mouse wheel as well. It's kind of completely unpredictable in how it does it. So there's the runway right in front of us. So at this point we centre our view up and we turn the autopilot off. So cut the engine. We're slightly to the left, so flaps down now. We're in the white area on the indicated airspeed, meaning we can use the flaps. I guess the whole point of flying these planes, even in inclement weather, is to make it look boring, and to make it look simple, isn't it? Okay, anybody can go barnstorming around the place doing aerobatics and being completely unpredictable, but actually flying in a stable, controlled manner is the real skill. And we're down. Okay, I'm not going to bother doing the whole taxi back for the video because that's all a bit boring. But yeah, we showed there that the Cessna 172 has no such problems with the autopilot or the GPS. There isn't a taxiway at this end. That's a bit of a failure, isn't it? So you have to actually either do a backtrack up the wrong way, or you can pull onto the grass. So we would do acknowledge ground handoff.
Going to 121.78 Cessna Bravo Echo Kilo.
I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to roll to a halt here and stop the video. So there we go. Yeah, Cessna 172 works really nicely. Programming the GPS was no problem whatsoever. So yeah, and it seemed to follow the altitude. Everything made sense in terms of programming it. So all good. Okay, see you again soon.